At our fourth storyteller this evening, let's hear it for Lily, everybody. Here comes Lily. Let's show her some love.
So how did I find myself sitting on a rug in the middle of the desert, asking a man with a real magic wand to help me figure out what to do with my life? Well, it started when we walked away from Black Rock City, the city of Burning Man, where there are these concentric semicircles of crowded streets of people out into what they call the deep playa, the empty, almost nothingness filled with little treats of mystery. And it was nighttime and there was almost no moon, so it was basically pitch dark. And most people travel this section of Burning Man on a bicycle or what they call an art car quickly because there's lots of empty nothingness between the little gems of magic. But we thought we would travel on foot, and it was kind of amazing because there would be this little light in the distance, and you would walk closer and it would get bigger and bigger, and it would be a giant interactive art piece. There's not a lot of feeling of space there because it's just this vast dust. And we would walk toward another light away from that one, and it would get smaller. And what would get larger and larger was a normal-sized parking meter that someone had just put out there. And we walked away from the parking meter and into this light of what was the trash of a party is what it was. So it was this, long white table with tablecloths and these beautiful drapes, and it was all lit up, and it looked like there's all these empty fancy champagne bottles, and someone had had quite a moment there. And sitting on a rug on the ground just beside the leftovers of the party was a man with a magic wand asking us if we wanted to play a game. And of course we did, right? So he says, okay, here's the game. My friend is Wiccan. This is a real magic wand that she's been using for 15 years. And she gave it to me a year ago, and I've never used it except for tonight to play this game. And the game is, ask me a question and I will answer it. And the question cannot be predictive of the future. And it can't be descriptive of the past. It can't be something you can look up on the internet. And it can't be something that you already know the answer to. It's hard, right? So I'm thinking about the question that I'm going to ask when my friend sits on the rug immediately, as if he's been waiting his whole life to ask this question, and says, how can my spirit transcend my physical body? And the man holds the wand silently and thinks for a moment and says, by giving up that they are two distinct things. And it's my turn to sit on the rug. And I think about the path that has led me to this moment and to this rug. You see, I was accepted to serve in the Peace Corps. And I was supposed to leave for French-speaking West Africa. And I got all of these vaccines and caps on my molars and got my blood drawn 4 times, once to just prove that I had had the chicken pox. And a month before I was supposed to leave, they found this glitch in my application. And they said, we're going to have you wait a year, and in another year you can try to apply again. And at that same moment, friends of friends were running this nonprofit, picking up trash all the way across America. They had walked from Maryland to Cincinnati, where I was living, and they'd created their own sustainability nonprofit, and I needed to leave, and I left with them. And when I arrived on this rug, I was 1 year almost into walking across America with them and running this amazing nonprofit. And so I had this impossible choice to make, right? I can turn my back on the final year of traveling, walking from Colorado to San Francisco, or I can turn my back on the Peace Corps, which was this big dream that caused this other dream to be started in the first place. And I was just a wreck with the decision of that. And in that moment of that darkness, of the emptiness of the desert, and this crazy sounds that you hear out in deep playa of all of these giant music systems that are just blasting at you, so it's just sort of this hum of noise. I heard this quiet in my head of the question that I needed to ask. And so I turned to the guy with the wand, and I could barely see him in the darkness. It was so dark, and I could see the wand itself, and it was so beautiful and ornate. And I just felt that magic was there. And I asked him, how can I create the most good in this world? And he was silent for a moment, and he thought about it, and he said, "Your question is cheating, because I told you that you couldn't ask me a question that you already know the answer to, and you already know that answer. But the question that you've chosen to ask me makes me love you, and so I'm going to tell you the answer anyway. And the answer is, you're going to create the most good in this world by focusing on the people and projects that bring you to tears." And a few weeks later, I was back on the road, and we were leaving a host house. And every time we left a host house, we would play songs and sing for them and say thank you for sharing their space with us. And one of the guys I was traveling with had this amazing, deep, resonant voice, and he sang this song, "A change is gonna come. Oh, yes, it will." And as I looked around at this family that I had created, I felt and heard the song I'd heard so many times before. I felt those tears well in my eyes. And I knew I had my answer. Thank you.